Nigeria as it is today structured is not working. But instead, our leadership wants us to continue to live a lie. What am I saying? Nigeria must be constitutionally restructured to function more effectively as a federation for two reasons. One, so that our country can be stable and peaceful. Two, so that our country's economy can prosper and we all prosper. What is wrong with that? But instead of confronting this truth and reality, they want to pretend that restructuring is breaking up Nigeria. Of course it is not. Restructuring Nigeria is to make Nigeria work. Constitutionally restructuring Nigeria is a huge issue. It involves a number of things. First of all, it involves what I call the national question. The national question must be addressed in any restructuring exercise. Which is, what is the basis of our identity as Nigerians? One. Two, do we want to live together even though we come from different nationalities or backgrounds? Those are the two questions.
What exactly are we restructuring? Are we meant to restructure our minds or to restructure, the political interests of some other people? Let me ask you, this restructuring, part of the essence of restructuring is to devolve power to the states and the local governments, right? Okay, let me ask you, how many state governors right now are allowing their local government chairmen to even, to function as a third tier of government?
Oh, that's a whole kettle of fish on its own. That's a whole conversation on its own.
You understand? So that is where restructuring should start. Restructuring should begin with all of us. And let me tell you, everybody will tell you devolve power. What power are you devolving? When on the concurrent list of government, where the state and the federal, they both, have, rights to legislate and all that. You legislate on housing. How many of these state governors are providing housing for their people? Every state governor come out and tell us how much they have invested in agriculture. Tell us how much they invested in education. These are issues on the concurrent list. They don't need any devolution of power. I just mentioned housing. I mentioned education. I mentioned health. I mentioned roads. So these are all and agriculture, 5 items. These are major issues that if they focus on, they will transform each state and local government without even going up in hand to the federal government. So when you hear people speak about restructuring, they are bamboozling the people who don't, maybe the susceptible minds, the gullible ones, the vulnerable ones.
If we don't do something right now, it's going to be very hard. For once in my lifetime, Sokoto, that is a caliphate of Muslims, where you can never see anything talked about, anything called violence, is now being almost run over by bandits. That is to tell you there's a problem. And except we are just trying to lie to ourselves. That's a serious foundational problem. Look at it from this way. Our constitution, the first paragraph says we Nigeria. Nobody. And that constitution was given to Obasanjo at the day of inauguration. It was not debated. Nobody knew the content of that constitution. And today we are seeing the problem. The problem is that if a minister and if a governor build a road for you, you go and drum and play and dance. Because it won't do him anything if he didn't build anything for you. So if the president is coming to commission something for you, which is our money, our commonwealth, Nigerians line up to drum as if something is wrong with us. What are you drumming? This is what they are supposed to do. So I think the problem we have is that constitution has a very fundamental problem. And until we bring it down, we will not be able to move forward. And of course, that constitution is going to consume us soon. Look at it in the creation of states. Look at before we have first 4 regions, and those 4 regions were equal matched. Today, when you talk about divisions now, we have 3: the west, the east, and the north. The north alone has more than enough to deal with even the south and the west combined together. On what basis? Who negotiated that kind of format? Who negotiated that idea of party and nation of that? So the whole thing is not right, and I think we need to do something about it. And the earlier, the better. Otherwise, I'm telling you, we'll wake up one day and this country will not be there.
What happens if Nigeria is not restructured before 2027? What do you foresee?
Well, what I foresee is a likelihood of continuing with the ethnic struggle for political power in Nigeria. And the ethnic struggle for political power has arrested the development of Nigeria and somehow has stifled nation-building exercise that should have been pursued. I foresee that we'll continue in the current doldrums of one ethnic tribe accusing one or the other. And those who have been marginalized or subsumed, like it was said, will remain subsumed. But I think restructuring will connect us to better practices of governance around the world. I'd like to draw your attention to Europe before 1648. Europe before 1648, when a treaty was signed in Westphalia that ended similar crisis that we are having in Nigeria, was a place where there were devastating wars, destruction of life, livelihood, and property. But when Europeans sat down from 1644 and came up with a treaty that was signed on 24th October 1648, that treaty pushed forward the doctrine of freedom and sovereignty, but in this case was the liberty of the local identity of residents. Local identity of residents is about ethnic groups. That ended war, and Europe has become peaceful. Tell me one European country that is not based on ethnic groups, besides the United Kingdom and Switzerland, maybe. There's no European Union that's not based on their ethnic boundaries. But there's still one Europe. So same thing in Nigeria. Our federation units can be based on ethnic boundaries, we still remain one Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if we don't restructure, we'll continue with the current level of struggle, and this struggle has created three key issues I mentioned before. A lack of legitimacy for every administration that is in power, a lack of strong consensus to back up every administration in power, and a recursive approach to seeking to solve the problem. Every ethnic group is taking a step to solve the problem, and the step they take becomes bigger than the problem itself. So these are what we call structural tasks or structural problems that have bedeviled Nigeria. This will continue if we don't restructure. And so it's not good for you and I, it's not good for our posterity. We can copy the best examples from Europe and elsewhere. And so this is the way to go.
Roll into one. The bottom line is that it is now time. The time has come for us to change the structure of Nigeria. If we don't do it now, and we go into the next election in 2017 with what we have now,
2027, sir,
then we are doing the same 27. Then we are doing the same things and the same way, and we're expecting a better result. We don't have a good outcome of what we have had in 2023. We've not had a good outcome of what we have had since the beginning of 1999, this administration, this dispensation. So it is time for this country to do something in the next couple of months. And being a student of Nigerian politics at my age, I know, for instance, you cannot get anything done through National Assembly as a private member, private citizen. It will not fly. It will just die in the committee. It's only the president that can forward a bill to National Assembly that has a very high chance of passage. What I did was to articulate the features of what should be in a restructured Nigeria, put it in a document, and forward it as a suggestion to the president of Nigeria, because he's the only one sitting on the throne now. It's now left to him to really go deep into a sense of nationalism and patriotism, to do something about it, because thinking of a second term or whatever time it is, the country is bleeding profusely. There's a news yesterday about government having borrowed $4.5 billion, this administration alone. We are borrowing money to service bureaucracy, 36 states of consumption, 774 local governments of profligacy. There is no money to do anything serious for the masses again. So the country has to look at what is restructuring. You want to change system for efficiency, for resource, for good management of resources, for the goodness of many people. That's what restructuring is about. It's time this country takes it serious. And if we don't do anything in the next few months, we go into 2027, we'll be in a very big trouble. That was my motivation.
Okay, so elaborating on the key components of your proposed new governance model for Nigeria Act 2024, let's talk about its economic implication and how it would affect governance efficiency. How do you anticipate that this proposed regional system will improve it? I'm talking about this governance efficiency compared to the current 36-state structure. And what are the economic benefits that you foresee arising from the restructuring, particularly regarding resource management and development?
In the first instance, the citizens of Nigeria have no ownership of the Nigerian polity. There's a big gap between the citizens and the politicians. They are doing what they like because everything is centered on Abuja. Once you do everything to rig election, to kill, to take talks, once you emerge in Abuja, is just to be sharing oil money. There's no intentions, and there's no chance really, because you have to buy SUVs, you have to buy new cars and all that. Okay, now the proposal to regionalize is to have a new center of prosperity, a new center of production. I might talk about it later on. We have proposed 8 regions of Nigeria, and if properly managed and constituted, it will be 8 centers of competition, 8 centers of complementarity of all the people, and then you take your resources in that region and use it for your own welfare.
Now you listen to that. Some persons want restructuring. Some say no, restructuring is not going to work. But me, I still believe restructuring will build the solution to this problem, because we don't want to be together. We don't want to live together. This constitution is not helping us. The constitution has to be amended. Yes, it has to be amended. It's not helping us. So the thing now is, they said, some said we should restructure and not to restructure. Restructure is not to, is to make sure things work for the betterment of this country. Because living together as one Nigeria has not helped us, and is not, I don't think it's going to help us. If at all it's going to help us, at least if we have good leadership who is ready to work for the citizens of this country, not for himself and his family, or probably for his party members. No, who is going to put the lives of Nigerians first. At least that will help to an extent. But who is that person now? Yeah, are they giving the person opportunity? That's the question. Because if we only have one person as a president, if others are not ready to work with him, he's still going to be a problem for the president. If the president is ready to do, we truly see that he's working, he's ready to do this, and others are against him because of the corruption, it's still going to be a problem. And it has happened in the past. So I think restructuring will be the solution of this country. If not now, later, but the earlier the better. So let's continue advocating for it. The first thing they need to do, if they don't want to restructure this country within the next 2 years before the next presidential election, they should sign this electoral reform into law. At least that will give us the confidence that go and participate on that election, go and cast your vote. Your vote will be counted for whoever wishes to vote for. But like this, no. Anyways, what do you think? Please share this video. Do you think living together is going to be the solution of this country, or restructuring is the solution to the problem? Leave your comment and please share this video.